Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Turn Left. I am your host, Indiana's own Dana Black, coming to you live, yes, all the way live from BlackWhere Studios, where we talk about Indiana politics from the left side of things. Y'all, I was gone for the last 2 weeks. I went to Thailand, and I had a chance to experience the Asian culture from a Thai perspective, and I'm telling you, it was amazing. Like the temples and the food. I don't know how I'm going to be able to eat Thai food in the United States ever again, because I'm telling you, I ate really, really well. Now, one thing I did, and I made a huge, huge blunder. I had a dish, and I thought there were green, because there was a lot of them, I thought it was green beans in the dish. Turns out it was a Thai chili pepper. I bit into that bad boy, set my mouth on fire, okay? I didn't even bother swallowing. I just spit it out, and I told everybody at the table, my bad. I was not putting that inside of my body. It burnt a hole through my mouth. I'm telling you. But listen, it was a great experience, and I encourage everyone, if you can, if it's in your budget, plan for trips to go abroad, right? And from a political perspective, because, that's how my brain works all the time anyway. From a political perspective, probably the coolest part about being in Thailand was seeing how all the street signs had both Thai and English, right? Nothing says, I want you to come and visit, than making it easy for you to actually read where you are. Imagine in America, if you will, where we encourage multiple languages. Can you imagine? Instead of, we just want people to speak English and just be American. That's it, just American. Just hateful and mean. Like, remember, everybody was all bent out of shape, Republicans anyway, bent out of shape because Bad Bunny speaks Spanish. And he's a whole American citizen. I know people don't think that he is because, they're not really that bright. But hey, whatever, right? So listen, if you get a chance, I know times are hard for a lot of people, and we planned this trip almost a year in advance and did the things. But once you get over there, once you get to see other cultures and other people, it just broadens your horizon, right? Imagine, we are not the center of the universe. We are not the center of the planet. Bangkok is ridiculously big. It is so big. Like, it's bigger than New York. I know, right? So guys, it was a great trip, but I'm back. I'm back ready to do the work of electing candidates. And you know me, I have a rant. The Indiana Capitol Chronicle reports what Republican lawmakers pitched as a potentially multi-million-dollar incentive for Indiana cities and counties to approve future data center projects was sliced to a small fraction of that amount in the final days of the legislative session. Private meetings between legislators and lobbyists for data center companies resulted in rewritten incentive provisions inserted in the final bill version, which cut potential payments based on electricity usage to at most about 1/14 of the level the state Senate had endorsed 3 days earlier. 1/14. I need you to understand that. Those changes that weren't discussed in public mean a large data center with a possible annual electric bill of $500 million would face paying a maximum of $350,000 a year to local governments rather than a minimum of $5 million as under the Senate-backed version. The difference comes down to, instead of paying 1% of their total electricity cost, that possible payment was cut to not more than 1 penny on the dollar of the 7% sales tax exemption that the legislature first approved for data centers in 2019. And the provision only applies to data centers gaining local approval after June 30th. Guys, basically, what they have done now is said, we're going to build these data centers, we're going to put it on the grid, and we're going to increase utility costs, but we're not going to give, right, the local governments the money that they should get for having us here on their grid. This is just another reason for us all to continue to fight against putting these data centers in neighborhoods, right? If you guys are smart enough to figure out technology that can teach itself, then you're smart enough to figure out how to create your own power grid, your own electrical resources, so that you're not asking us, the ratepayers, right, to pay more. So I got more to my rant. I ain't done. This is also from the Capitol Chronicle. And I'll drop links to these articles at the end so that you can read the entire article, because I want you guys to get a good idea of what we're talking about here. A renewed federal order is keeping 2 aging Indiana coal plants running months after their planned retirement. And utilities say the price tag is quickly climbing into the hundreds of millions. The U.S. Department of Energy on Monday issued new emergency orders requiring Northern Indiana Public Service, or NIPSCO, and CenterPoint Energy to continue operating coal units at the R.M. Schaefer and the F.B. Coley generating stations through at least June 21st. The directive extends an initial 90-day order issued in late December under Section 202C of the Federal Power Act. Federal officials have argued the move is necessary to avoid potential power shortages and maintain grid reliability across the Midwest. The Trump administration will continue taking action to keep America's coal plants running to ensure we don't lose critical generation sources, Energy Secretary Kirsten Root said in a statement. Americans deserve access to affordable, reliable, and secure energy to power their homes at all the time, regardless of whether the wind is blowing or the sun is shining, because obviously he doesn't understand how those technologies work. The orders require NIPSCO, CenterPoint, and the Mid-Continent Independent System Operator, or MISO, to ensure the plants remain available to operate despite earlier plans to retire the units at the end of 2025. The Indiana plants are among a handful of aging coal units nationwide that federal officials have ordered to remain online in recent months as part of a broader intervention into regional power markets that has bypassed typical state and grid planning processes. Now, we also have to remember that there's a little war going on. So energy costs are going up all over the place for multiple reasons, but now they're saying, you know what, we just want you to continue to have bad air quality in Indiana as well, right? Because we know that these coal plants are making it hard for people who have asthma. So there's nothing positive about this move whatsoever. Retiring aging coal plants that require a lot of money and resources to maintain is not a good idea, especially when the businesses themselves have said, yo, we're done with these. We want to shut them down. But, hey, keep telling us that you want to keep energy costs low. Keep telling us that. Gaslighting us continually. And finally, the Indy Star reports, a change of ownership is on the horizon for Indianapolis Public Utility. A group of private equity investors, including Global Infrastructure Partners, a subsidiary of BlackRock, will acquire AES Corporation for roughly $33 billion. AE announced in a press conference that was released March 2nd. It's unclear what impacts the acquisition will have on Indianapolis residents and their rising electric bills. AES Indiana serves more than 520,000 users in the area. The transaction will close as early as late this year. AES said in a news release that the Indiana branch would remain locally managed and operated. The AES Indiana Utilities Division is undergoing significant increases in demand, the utility noted in a press release announcing the acquisition. AES Indiana provides electricity to all of Marion County, plus a sliver of land stretches southwest into Morgan County and northwest into Boone County. In the United States, AES electric utilities in Indiana and Ohio are experiencing significant demand growth and remain focused on maintaining reliable service and affordable rates for all customers. Okay, so where did this demand growth come from? Could it be all them damn data centers? Huh? So not only are we keeping coal plants open that should be retiring, we're seeing significant rate increases across the board. I know NIPSCO is doing gangbusters up in northern Indiana. They are literally doubling in many cases people's utility bills. And now we see that a utility is in the private hands of a private equity. Now we know what private equity firms do. They typically break it apart and sell it off for profit. Well, no, we don't know what the impact is going to be to service because we don't know what all they're going to cut. We have no idea. In the meantime, we have got people trying to build data centers in neighborhoods. So not only are we subsidizing, right, the resources needed to run the data centers, they're raising our utility costs to cover those demands, and they're polluting our air in the process. Guys, listen, I love technology. I like AI. I enjoy what AI allows us to do when it comes to efficiency and things of that nature. But I also believe that these people who are smart enough to create this technology should be smart enough or surround themselves with people smart enough to understand how to generate their own electricity resources, their own water resources. Water maybe not so much, but there's ways to get around this stuff. Like I said, I've talked about a million times, the Chinese are actually building their data centers in the water. We still don't know what the environmental impact is, but at least they're thinking outside of the box. And that's the point, right? Instead of gouging all of us. Now, mind you, you're going to be charged to use AI. We're going to be charged the rate increases to maintain a grid so that these AI data centers can sit on them. But more importantly, we're not even getting any of the benefits that they initially put in the original bill in 2019 to put money back into the community for using our resources. So what's happening here? Who is looking out for us? If they're having these backroom deals with lobbyists and the legislators, and mind you, Democrats are in the super minority. So they can make whatever deal they want, no matter how much we oppose it. This is what's happening. Nobody is looking out for us when they make these deals. And that is why it is so important for you. You have until April 6th to get registered to vote if you have not already. And I suggest that you all check your voter registration, because ain't no telling what Diego Morales is out here doing with our stuff. Check your voter registration. Early voting begins April 7th. Guys, it is time for us to get engaged, get involved, and make sure that we have Democrats up and down the ballot ready to go for the general. Listen, primaries, I know how they are. I know y'all want to, say what you need to say. But remember, when it's all said and done, if the goal is to flip some of these seats, and I said it down in Jasper, Indiana, when I got back from Thailand, and I'm going to say it to you again. If you're a candidate who is running in a primary and you do not get enough votes to go on to the general, and you do not help the candidate that won, then what did you put your name on the ballot for? Did you do it to actually flip a seat? Or did you do it because you felt like you looked good on a poster? Not everybody is going to win. That's just the nature of the beast, right? But that doesn't mean you don't show up. That doesn't mean that you don't continue to help other candidates win. Guys, they are literally poisoning us, killing us, and making us pay for it. We have got to get engaged, and we have got to get involved, and we have got to elect some Democrats and flip that supermajority so we can stop some of this stupid. I wonder what they're thinking about when they go home to rural Indiana and they realize, oh, crap, my utility rates are going up. Or when they're hearing from their constituents how they're struggling, but these are the deals that they're making for what? Campaign donations? That's literally what it is. You can go to the Secretary of State's website and you can view all of the donations that these clowns are getting and who they're getting them from. Everybody can do it. But this is the moment, y'all. I know y'all want to parse out your Democrats. I know you do. I know you want to say we need a progressive or we need this or we need that. This is what we need. We need a Democrat. See, I'm in a marginalized community, 3 of them, right? I'm always trying to pick the lesser of evils. So I need you all to get on board with this thing because now is the time. Now is the time. You guys can sit around and fight over which progressive or which blue dog. I don't care because I know that if it's a Democrat, I'm going to be rocking with them 75 to 80% of the time because ain't none of them perfect because ain't nobody perfect. Y'all get over yourselves. Our nation is literally at war in Iran, and we don't even know why. Ooh, TSA is not getting paid. Things are not happening. And they're poisoning us and driving up our utility rates right here in Indiana, but we have the ability to stop it. So guys, get engaged, get involved. Now is the time, because they're killing us out here, and that's for real, for real. That is my rant. Democrats, are you looking for an affordable digital content creation solution? Then look no further than Black Pearl IT Solutions and Black Pearl Studios. Indiana's own Dana Black is providing many of the communication wraparound services any Democratic organization needs. No matter the size of the budget, Indiana's own and Black Pearl Studios have you covered. Just scan the QR code or visit www.blackpearl-its.com. All right. Yo, I play those ads because, guys, I like doing this work. Hire me. I'm a pretty hype chick. Hire me. But you know what? I talked about, getting engaged and getting involved. And the point of Turn Left is to bring you those down ballot candidates that you may not get to hear about because of all the noise at the top of the ticket, right? The State House is the most powerful place in our government system. I'm telling you, because the State House can prevent federal legislation from being implemented, and they can decide what happens down at the municipalities. And that is why it's so important that we find out about who these candidates are, whether they're in your district or not, but you can still support them. So first up, I got Kirsten Root, who's running in Senate District 21. Kirsten, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Dana. I'm so happy to be here tonight.
I love it. And then running in, wait a minute, hold on. House District, I got it here. I'm just being silly. House District, I blew it. 81. House District 81, Sharon Wight. Sharon, welcome to the show.
So excited to be here. Loved your rant. You gave us a lot to work with in that rant. And I think one of the most important parts is that we need to get people out and voting. One of the things that has always been a passion of mine is the fact that we have generally less than 30% of people voting in almost any election, but particularly in primaries that are off from presidential elections. And so please get registered, check your registration, and get out there and vote.
I love
so that way your voice is heard.
Say it. I love that. Guys, you mentioned the rant. Was there anything in particular that you wanted to comment on about that rant? I know that was a pretty focused rant. It was about these data centers and how it's impacting our communities. But was there anything that you wanted to speak on?
I think one thing that I want to speak on is that, so my district goes from Westfield to Kokomo, and we just had a vote at the county council this week about annexation. And they think it's because a data center is going to be going in. And we had 8 county councilors sit there scrolling on their phones before they voted for this to happen anyways. So exactly what you're saying about the State House being able to make change that's going from the top to the bottom, you're exactly right. Because the county councils can sometimes be a little more focused, a little more touching base with where their dollars are coming from and going to. So I just really appreciate that you brought all of that up.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, for sure. We just had, or they are in the process of, or have completed a data center up here in Allen County. One of the most controversial aspects of that was the fact that they were doing it down in a protected wetland. They did some kind of nonsense to temporarily unprotect that wetland and then say that they were going to refill the wetland and, quote unquote, fix it. But they're actually moving, from what I understand, they're moving that wetland up to the northwest corner of Allen County, when they built in the southeast corner of Allen County. So the data, I'm like you. I love technology. I work in technology. I use AI regularly in my workplace. And so, I see the benefits of it, but I do not see the benefits of what it is doing for the American people as a whole, but particularly here in Indiana, where we had this bill that came through in 2019. No one really paid any attention to it because it seemed a lot smaller then. Mm-hmm. And now we've seen how it has just grown.
Yeah. And then we cut to 1/14 of the incentives. Like, not only are you insulting us by telling us, oh, this is all great, the money that the communities would have received has been cut. Like, that is like a slap in the face. So if you guys really think that these people give a damn about your lives, they don't. They don't.
Well, and that's what's crazy is they're constantly taking away power from local governments while saying, "Oh, we are pro like small government. We don't think the federal government should be running everything." Meanwhile, we're taking power away from our trustees. We're taking it away from the cities and not even letting them make their own decisions a lot of the time. It just doesn't even make sense.
Oh yeah, there was a bill that was introduced to basically make local county offices not even elected offices. Luckily, it didn't get a hearing. But literally, what?
Yeah, I was going to bring that up where they were trying to basically eliminate township government as well this session. And township government is one of the building blocks of our local government here in Indiana. We need to be celebrating that and helping those individuals rather than making it more difficult for them to do their jobs.
Absolutely. And when you have those township governments like the trustee, that is the closest to the community. So those that are needing help, that's where they go, to the trustee. But if you make that an appointed position, we have already seen corruption at every level. So we have literally seen elected officials go to jail for misusing funds. You think appointed people going to be giving a damn about what folks need at the trustee's office at the township level? I question it. All right, y'all.
Absolutely not.
Go ahead, Dana. Let's get into it. Kirsten, tell the people who you are and where you come from.
Yeah, my name is Kirsten Root. I really appreciate you, Dana, for saying it correctly because I know that can be a tricky one. But I originally grew up in LaPorte, Indiana, right off of Lake Michigan. So a lot of time in farmlands, but also just in nature and spending time in the woods, spending time enjoying the landscape. Now I'm a social worker. I worked for the Department of Child Services, investigating child abuse and neglect for the last several years. And I just finished grad school in December with my master's. So I'm very excited about that. And I also just finished a really great trip abroad for about 3 weeks. So Dana, I am very jealous of your more recent trip.
Where'd you go?
We went and bopped around Europe. It was my husband's first trip overseas. And we went to England, France, Germany, the Netherlands, and Ireland. Our last week was in Ireland, and it was incredible. Every single moment of it.
Yeah, and don't you get a sense that when you go to other countries, like, when you never leave America and you don't leave the United States, when they tell you, oh, we're the greatest nation in the world, and then you go to Europe and you see their transportation infrastructure, you're like,
It's crazy. And that's exactly what I told him because we took our dog with us. She's 70 pounds. She's not small. And I'm like, oh, no big deal. We'll just take the train everywhere. We don't need to rent a car. And he didn't believe me at first. And then we get there and it's like, oh, we get off the plane. Let's just go take the subway. Let's go hop on a trolley. There are so many options everywhere. And that's one thing that makes it so difficult for us to stay connected here is we don't have any ability to be around each other. Our cities aren't walkable. We don't have public transportation. And when we are building housing developments, there's nothing here. We're not doing any sort of mixed outlets.
So you said you worked at DCS. Well, thank you for that service because social workers are underpaid. I'm not trying to tell people what your salary is, but I'm just saying they're underpaid. And I also saw that state employees are not getting a raise for the second year in a row. So think about that, y'all. The cost of living is going up, but their salaries are staying the same. Make sense. But tell us, I imagine working in DCS and seeing what you see on a regular basis, but tell us, why did you decide to put your name in for this seat?
I decided to run for office and specifically at the state level because I was working for the state. I was working with people every single day who were doing everything they could to provide for their families and to provide for the community and be functioning members of society. And they were just constantly being pushed back. I spent so much time with my families, a lot more than the state recommends, but that's because what we were doing matters. And if we're just going in and not putting in 100%, then what difference are we making? But I decided to run because systemically I was running into the same things. People don't have access to healthcare. They can maybe afford to get an apartment, but they can't afford to get beds. They can't afford childcare. So then we're taking kids out of these homes when it's not the parents' fault. They're doing everything that they can, but they're being told time and time again, it's not enough. And we're just punishing them for living in poverty. And then also, like exactly what you said about marginalized communities, I was seeing these huge disparities between so I worked in Hamilton County. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of assumptions that are made about that with Carmel and Westfield and Fishers, but there's also areas like Arcadia, and there's poor people who live in Carmel mm-hmm. and Westfield too. There's a lot of poverty there because people want to be in those school districts. And it was constantly seeing people who were people of color, couldn't afford to hire an attorney, people who were gay also having their rights taken away for things that shouldn't even be a topic of conversation. So I'm running because I want to give power to people and be a voice for people who can't be there themselves right now.
I love that. And I remind people all the time, there's a food stamp office in every county. So you can think that Hamilton County doesn't need it, but they need it, right? Because I used to work in the IT department for the state. And my job was to manage the FSSA offices. And guess what? There's a food stamp office in every county. Man, those are admirable traits and reasons why to run, because it sounds like you're about service. If you're giving more hours and not getting paid for it, because we already know you didn't get a raise, right? You're giving more hours, right? So is service something that was ingrained in you as a young person?
Oh, absolutely. My parents were blue collar, but like they both grew up in poverty. Like my stepfather grew up with the circus. Half of his family is in jail for murder or something along those lines. And then my mom grew up also in very deep poverty. And everything that they taught me was about relying on your community. They couldn't rely on family, so they were reaching out to friends. They were relying on coworkers and building their own network. And what I saw was that people were doing this because they care about each other, not because there's these intrinsic bonds. I mean, we can go on all day about like expectations of family and stuff, but at the end of the day, people do things because they care about each other. And that's a lesson that I took away from them.
I love that. That is a inspiring story. I love it. All right, Sharon, tell the people who you are and where you come from.
So my name is Sharon Wight, and I'm running in District 81, which is in the northwest corner of Allen County, which is where Fort Wayne is. I grew up in Fort Wayne. I've lived in Fort Wayne my entire life. I've lived in District 81 my entire life, except for a couple of years when I moved one zip code over to go live at Purdue Fort Wayne, where I went to college. I then worked for several years at Purdue Fort Wayne as a part-time instructor and then eventually an academic advisor full-time. So I understand that whole working for the state thing. We didn't get raises for several years either, so totally get that. And then when the pandemic hit, I went through some things medically and just kind of personally, and really reevaluated where my interests were and the things that brought me the most joy. And one of those things was being in technology. I really enjoyed working in technology while we were being forced to do that. So I pursued a second master's degree during that time frame, so 2021, 2022, in instructional technology. And then I got a job out in the corporate world working for a educational technology company that makes websites and other communication products for K through 12 organizations across the country. So I've always been associated with education in one form or another and always lived here. I went to Northside High School, which at the time was the most diverse high school in Fort Wayne. We had over 60 languages represented. And I'm sitting here just so jealous of both of you ladies getting to go overseas. I have not gone overseas in a very long time. It is one of my favorite things to do is to travel. The last place that I got to go was Spain. I've also been to Japan, and I've been to other parts of Europe, and getting to, like you said, see what's going on in not even just other countries, but other parts of our country where they have stronger public transportation and those stronger community ties. My family was very similar to yours, Kirsten, where my parents were the only one here. So we had to grow our own community here in Fort Wayne.
I love it. I love it. So when you think about, I love that I am with a fellow geek. I love being geeky. But when you think about, we're in the last week of Women's History Month, and you and I both know that women are not as well represented in the tech space that we should be. What in what ways are you encouraging young people, young women particularly, to get more involved in tech? Because tech is so vast. It's not one thing. I know a lot of people think it's just one thing, but talk about how you're encouraging people, because you're a teacher. So how are you encouraging people?
I've been a teacher now for 15 years. And one of the things that I always encouraged my students to do was to find the thing that they really loved. And then actually one of my mentors told me, find what you love to do and then figure out how to do it. Yeah. And so that is something that I have carried with me. It's something that even if I don't use those exact words, another one of my favorite quotes is from the director, Kevin Smith, failure is success training. And so I tell my students, try different things. I encourage them to do internships. And I also remind them that, especially in the world where technology is moving so fast, the job that they think they want when they start college might not be a job that exists right now. It may not be a job that exists as they're freshmen in college or first years in college, but as they go graduate, they may find all kinds of things that they didn't know existed. My job did not exist. I started looking in technology in late 2019, early 2020. And my job didn't actually even exist until 2022. So it didn't exist during that early time frame when I was thinking about shifting to technology. And I try to remind my students. That there's a lot of different places that you can start. I'm a project manager, but you can start working as an IT help desk person, or I also feel like there's a lot of movement in technology that there isn't necessarily in other fields. Yeah. And that can be really positive. That can also be a negative. But it allows students to kind of try things out, and I encourage them to lean into their curiosity as well.
I love that, because when I started out, I thought I was going to be a CIO. Yeah, right. Somebody should have told me I lived in Indiana and I'm a gay Black chick. Somebody should have told me. Because it's sometimes it's not about what you know, it's about who you know and who you're connected to. And you're right. Technology does change. Who knew that I'd be working for a political tech company? And I love the advice of understand what you're good at and what you like to do, and then find a way to do it. I can talk all day, every day, nonstop, if given the opportunity, as long as I have someone to talk to, because, even I get bored with myself sometimes. But I'm in my role at Act Blue, I am getting the opportunity to do what I do best, which is talk to people about getting engaged and using that technology. I love those pieces of advice because it really does help. And one of the things I've noticed about the both of you in conversation and getting to know you, and Sharon, I want to start with you. How did you know that being people-centered was going to be a prominent place in your life? Because you're a teacher, you're running to run for office. You have to be people-centered. How did you know this was did you know, or was it just a discovery?
Oh, no, it was something. So I was 13 years old when I first decided that I was probably going to be in education. I was it's definitely a longstanding tradition in my family. I come from a long history of educators, particularly my mom's side. My dad was an engineer, but there's so many educators on my mom's side. And when I was 13, I fell in love with social studies. And then when I went into college, believe it or not, we had a teacher surplus in the K through 12 field at that point. I know it's very weird to think about. And particularly we had a social studies teacher surplus. So I kind of changed what my plans were. I decided to get my degrees in communication instead. But I found my way back into the classroom my junior year of college when I got an on-campus job that was a supplemental instruction job. I can go into detail about that with anybody who wants to talk to me about it. But I realized that through that my place really was in front of people. I always wanted to run for office. It was always kind of the plan. But when I was working in public service as an educator at Purdue Fort Wayne, it was one of those things that it was just really sticky, because working in higher education and potentially working as in public office just really didn't jive with each other. So that's one of the, actually in some ways, another of the big reasons why I pursued something that was a little bit more flexible. So that way I could serve. But being people-centered, from the time I was very young. I was the kid that annoyed everybody, always wanted all the neighbor kids, in part because I was one of the oldest, but I always wanted to play school. That was the thing that I always wanted to go do with all of the neighborhood kids. And I'm sure I drove everybody absolutely crazy.
I'm sure they loved you. Kirsten, what about you? How did you know you were going to be people-centered?
I'm the oldest child. My mom had me when she was like 17. So growing up, I had a lot of time where I was alone until, so my parents are divorced. My dad has made a lot of poor choices in life. He's got like 13 kids with like 8 different women. And that's had a lot of domestic violence was a major theme in our life. So growing up, like I was always in this kind of caregiver role and serving as this person who was like in a protector role. And so it just was always natural. It just was a thing of necessity. And then eventually when I was looking at jobs and like, what do I want to be when I grow up? Like, I was always coming back to the same thing. I grew up with Barack Obama as the first president that I was like, oh, that's what the president is. And that's what they do now. And that was just always so inspiring, like hearing him talk and seeing how his words could carry so much weight, and the service that he was doing from that level would like trickle down, essentially, not in the Reagan sense because but in the actual sense of positive change. And how that can be so inspiring for people, and just hearing people talk about how people like him really make a difference made me think, okay, it doesn't have to be just one-on-one, and one person really can make a difference, and that's still true either way. So it's just always been a reoccurring theme in life.
I love that. Another thing about the two of you, and again, I didn't know any of these aspects of your lives until you shared them with me. You're both women with advanced degrees in roles that typically are not as valued as they should be in our society. How do we work to change? I mean, golly gee, teachers are getting hammered every day. They're asked to do more with less. Now you got to be first responders. You got to be, you got to be crotch police. You got to be all these different things. And then DCS, your caseload is ridiculous and through the roof. These are numbers. I'm not making this up. This is stuff that you guys can all go look up. But you also have these advanced degrees. How does it feel knowing that you have worked hard to get the education to be of service, and folks at the state level, at the education level are not valuing these careers? This is what y'all talk.
For me, it's I was like, Sharon, I think for me it's inspiring because I very much am like I got this from my mom, like oh, you don't think that's valuable? Well, I'll show you why it is. And then you're going to be the one who looks like an idiot at the end of this. So I know, like, I think there's a lot of importance in advocacy as a social worker. That is a huge thing that we're always pushing. And it's like, if you're not going to advocate for yourself, nobody's going to come save you. Yeah. Nobody is going to make that difference if you're not telling people why you matter. So a lot of my job has been, there's been times that like I've been threatened to be arrested while I'm at work because a police officer is making poor choices, specifically in Westfield. I'm not
Imagine that.
I know, it's crazy how a white police officer who's like a foot taller than me thought that he could tell me what to do. And I'm telling my kid, go get in the car. I'm about to be real unprofessional. But I think for us as people who are in these jobs where we're undervalued, we just have to tell them, like, I don't care. You can be mad about it and force yourself into the space sometime. It's uncomfortable. It's hard, but that's just what you have to do. I worked with the sheriff's department and the coroner's office here in Hamilton County to develop social work programs. They got cut thanks to SD-81 from 2025, unfortunately, before they were off the ground. But we just have to push ourselves into these spaces.
I love it.
For me, it is, so working in higher ed, I have, particularly when I was working I'm still a part-time instructor. They don't get paid enough. They don't get paid near enough, but it's incredibly frustrating to watch this happen for our teachers who are working in K-12, who have contracts, and our DCS folks who are working for the state and they're not getting paid. They're getting a lot of pushback for anything that they ask for. So they ask for pencils, they ask for paper. And at the same time, you have to be licensed. You have to have the advanced degree to do these jobs in higher ed, in K through 12, in DCS. You have to pay for the licensure tests. You have to pay for the schooling, and then you come out with however much you have in student loan debt, and you're not like you go into it knowing that it's not going to be the most fiscally rewarding career, but at the same time, you hope that you'll at least have enough to be able to cover the student loans that you had or room for advancement. And then you find that things are so political and I'm a little bit passionate about this right now because one of my best friends actually just lost out on a job opportunity that like she on paper and quite frankly in real life was perfect for. And it seems like there might have been some politics involved in why she didn't get that advancement. And so she's my lifelong best friend. She actually just had her, I'm going to go ahead and throw it out there. She had her 40th birthday on Tuesday and we've been best friends. We've been best friends since I was 3 weeks old. Oh, wow. So we like, when you hear cradle to grave, this is my girl. And so I found this out an hour ago. So like right before we started talking. And it's just really frustrating to hear that there's potentially politics that are involved. I experienced that when I was working in higher education. There were politics involved. Kirsten's referring to the fact that there are politics involved, and it's in these roles where we really should be protecting the people who are the consumers of what it is that we're doing, whether it's kids, whether it's students, and we're not doing that because we get so caught up in the quote unquote politics of it. And I don't necessarily mean we, the people doing the work. I mean the people who are higher up or the people who are involved with those groups.
Yeah. So I guess we got to talk about some policy at some point. Because you guys are running for the State House and we are witnessing some really, 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 really bad legislation. I was sitting in on an interview for, that my young folks do called Next Gen In, where they were interviewing Senator Hunley and Representative Porter. And one of the questions they asked, and I loved it, so I'm going to ask you, what piece of legislation that was passed and was signed by the governor that frustrated you the most from this past legislative session?
Got this easy. The homeless bill. Infuriating. Every time I think, because there's no reason in this world that you can give that it even makes sense. I mean, there are a lot of bills that were proposed that were just trash. I mean, there were the bathroom bills. There were a lot of things at the prisons that were just trash. But to say that people should go to jail for literally being homeless and then charging them $500 is the most asinine and backwards thing I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah.
Got to fill those private prisons.
Totally.
Exactly.
Totally agree with that. And then to turn around, so they called that a Housing Matters bill. And then they had another Housing Matters bill that took away the ability for local government to be able to really kind of rein in the developers who are doing building and who are, supposedly building places that would be for our homeless populations. They're out of control. They're able, you've talked about private equity coming into utilities. That's a huge issue. And I was actually looking at the other Housing Matters bill earlier today, just because someone mentioned it at an event that I was at last night. And they also removed what I think are some really important safety things in that particular bill. That one's called an arc circuit interrupter, arc fault circuit interrupter. And they took away the requirement, or at the very least made it so that it's not required to have that. As someone who has built a home, I think that is absurd. And they also took away some type of emergency services system requirement in larger buildings, so in commercial buildings. And both of those things were hidden in that bill. And so I think that both of these housing bills very much highlight this situation where they hide things and don't necessarily, what's actually happening in the bill doesn't reflect what is ultimately going to be pushed.
And the way they essentially marketed the bill that you're talking about, Sharon, was, hey, we want to increase housing. So we want to, get rid of some of these regulations, which increase the cost and blah, blah, blah. But they also save lives, fools. Like, I don't understand. Like, regulations are there to protect the people. Mm-hmm. Right.
And that they're not going to lower rent when they're building these. None of the rental property. So there's some new places that are going in within District 81, and they are promoting those as low cost housing. And one of the areas was a condominium complex. And I thought that those condominiums were going to be for sale. No, they are for rent, and they are for rent for like $1,900 to $2,100, if I recall correctly. And that means that because like a condominiums could be a really good entry point for a first time home buyer.
I have a condo.
And yeah, exactly. We don't have a lot of them up here in Fort Wayne. And it's, I think, in part because they turn into these rental properties, and then people can't buy that lower cost option. And then they rake the rent up super high. And it's like, okay, so where is the lower cost in the room with us? And then we're going to take away things that make it safer. So all of that together is just incredibly frustrating to me, as we're seeing so much growth and development up here in District 81.
That is scary. Kirsten, you look like you were ready to say something.
I'm always ready to say something. And another thing. They are constantly, I think I harped on this a little bit earlier, taking away power from local government. I mean, we're restricting a city's ability to put any sort of rent control in. We get rid of the cities and towns' ability to limit how much rental property there is, how much rental property is owned by corporations. So at every single step of the way, they're dismantling an ability to make things affordable for people. I think I saw yesterday that we're like number 6 in the country for business. And that is such a shameful thing, because it's not actually for business. It just means, hey, we're number 6 at screwing over the people who are actually in the working class.
Mm-hmm. We're number 1 for foreclosures. Yes. And it's like, at what point is it going to hit a wall where it's like people can't afford a house, they can't afford a car to live in, they're living on the street, we're putting them in prison and then turning them into modern day slaves. I mean, that's its own can of worms, because we're not paying them for this like forced labor, right? And I just don't know where we go from here if we're going to keep voting for the same people and keep making the same choices.
Boy. And the Indy Star just yesterday or day before yesterday wrote an article about how affordable housing, how we rank in the nation for affordable housing. And they based it on not, a lot of people think affordable housing, you're always thinking low income housing. That's not the same. Affordable housing is at different price points where your income is and so on and so forth. And we rank at the bottom of affordable housing units. So you can have these units, but if they're out of folks' price point, what are you going to do?
Yep.
And it's just so scary.
And that's what was so frustrating when I saw those condos going in, because I thought that they were going to be, condos that were going in, they're 2-bedroom, they've got a garage. Mm-hmm. And I thought, okay, maybe 12 to 1,500. Like I didn't know what they were going to be. And the fact that they were at this price point, and also wages are not going up at all.
Say that again.
Here in Indiana. Wages, mm-hmm. I'll say it again. I'll say it so many times. Wages are not going up here in Indiana. I'm in some ways really fortunate. My company is not based in Indiana. And so because I work remotely, I get what at least is encroaching upon a more livable wage, because they base it more on, kind of the whole country rather than just Indiana. But it's hard for us to keep highly qualified people here in the state because they leave because they can get paid more. And then it makes it hard to, it's just like, where does the rubber meet the road here?
Yeah, I have to admit, there is, I feel a special kind of privilege. The fact that I work remotely and my company is not based in Indiana. Like, I feel there is something to, because my company is based in Massachusetts, a very liberal place, right? And so the way they do business is from a liberal perspective. And so sometimes I have to pinch myself. I cannot believe how fortunate I am at this stage of my life to have found an organization that really values the employee and the output. And I feel that I just wanted to toss that out there, because I feel for folks that and like I could leave Indiana. I could go live anywhere in the country I want to go live. So I could go like, and have this bad political climate, but also be on the beach, right? I could have that. So
you're not thinking of anywhere specific when you say that, are you?
Let me tell you something. The older I get, the less I like snow. I ain't gonna lie to you.
Oh, I've hated snow since I was 10 years old.
Man, hate
so
it.
I get it. Hate
it. But I keep reminding myself, if all the smart people leave Indiana, who's going to stay and fight for the 6 million plus people that need us to fight for them? And that's why y'all are on the ballot. So, Sharon, every candidate has a list of issues that they are focused in on their campaign. Could you share with us about 3 of the issues that you are focusing in on?
So one of my top issues is accessibility. And when people think of accessibility, they automatically think of ADA accessibility. And of course, that is so important. I actually have been working over the past couple years to get more involved advocacy-wise in the disability community. I worked with the League for the Blind and Disabled up here in Fort Wayne last year on, they have a program called the Inclusion Institute, which is the closest that you can really get to becoming a certified disability advocate without being, in social services. And so I did that program. I've continued working with the League. Very important to me, especially because of some medical issues that I've had over my lifetime, particularly in the last 5 years or so. So that's a huge issue for me, but it's not just ADA accessibility. It is, to me, I keep focusing on accessibility of process. There are so many things that are so...
Define that.
So they're so difficult to do, whether it's getting your driver's license, getting a passport, paying your taxes, all of these things that we put so much red tape on. We complicate the process, and then we ultimately punish people for it. Let me tell you, what's really been on my mind lately is because we have that evil voting act that we're not even going to say the name of because we're not going to bring it into existence. But we've got that happening at the federal level, and it's making me think about. I've had a passport since I was 16 years old, but I think about the people who haven't had a passport, who might have to go get one, or even just the process of getting all of the different paperwork that you need. It is not necessarily easy to get another Social Security card. It's not easy to get another birth certificate. It's not easy to get all of the different things that you might need. Heck, in some ways, with what we've got going on here at the state level, it is not even easy to know for sure if you are registered to vote. Everybody, check your registration, get on indianavoters.in.gov, check it every day until the day that you go to vote, because weird stuff is happening. And I tell you what, I'm checking it regularly, in part because I'm running, because I'm afraid that but it's not like it's an easy thing to do. So going to the State House, trying to find a way to make those processes written in language that makes sense to the average person, so that you don't feel like you have to have someone with you. And then finally, also accessibility of language. Like I said, I went to a school where we had 60 different languages that were represented while I was a student there. It is still one of the most diverse high schools in Fort Wayne, if not the most diverse to this day. I felt that was a huge advantage for me. I learned so much about different cultures, about different people, perspectives, all of the different things. But we don't celebrate that. You were talking about at the beginning of this, right before your rant, when you were talking about your trip, about how we don't celebrate diversity. And I feel like we really need to be bringing accessibility of language. Another area that's incredibly important to me is healthcare, making healthcare more affordable. You were talking about Massachusetts. That's a state that has figured out how to circumvent things happening at the federal level by establishing their own healthcare. There's no reason why we couldn't do more of that here in the state of Indiana.
I love it. I love those topics. Kirsten, what about you? What are the issues that you're focusing in on as you run this race?
Yeah, so as a social worker, I am dealing with a lot of different things. My job right now is I'm working at a middle school outside of my district on the south side of Indianapolis, because I didn't want to put my clients in weird positions since I'm running for office. But exactly what you were saying about healthcare is making it accessible in rural areas. People don't have any sort of access a lot of the time. Maternal health care is abysmal in Indiana. And I think it was like 54 to 56% of the state is in a maternal health care desert. So I want to expand the HIP program accessibility. So kind of exactly what you were saying, and make it so that our tax dollars are actually going to supporting people and giving them a public option. We can't do Medicare for all as a state because the federal government would have to approve that, unfortunately. And we know we can't rely on that. But I want to expand the HIP program. That is the biggest thing, my number one right now. Second, I want to give power back to local communities. Like we were saying earlier with the trustee's office and with townships, they are a huge, huge avenue for people to get support. And we did pass a bill this legislature that made it so that there were a lot more barriers to a township existing. I live in Sheridan. My township was dissolved last year, so we no longer have that. We do have a trustee's office, but who knows how long that'll last at this point. And I want to make sure that we're not doing to the trustees and townships what we've done to public schools, where we gut them and then say, oh, well, it's not working, so we're just going to get rid of it. So I want to reverse that. And then the third thing is ending corporate greed, because I am sick of paying taxes and not getting anything from it. So instead of giving Walmart $19 million last year in subsidies and tax abatements, I want to actually tax them and make them pay for what they're doing, because we're paying for their employees' health care and their employees' food anyways. So we may as well simplify the process and just make them pay it to begin with, have some roads, have some health care, have some childcare, and spend it on things that actually matter.
Did you guys see where one of the Waltons was like, pay TSA? You need to pay TSA. Like, write a check.
Right. Literally, you've got the money. Why can't you go pay it?
Write a check. Those are great areas, I think, that for both of you to focus on. Now, the other question is, when you're out talking to your potential constituents, what are they telling you? What do they want to see you do?
Yeah. Go ahead, Sharon.
I know. So I joke all the time that I'm going to run on potholes, which but they are bad. I'm sure that they're bad. They're bad. And, the thing is, it's not when you make a joke like that, when you say I'm going to run on potholes, it's not just about the potholes. It's about the fact that as you're driving over those every single day, first of all, that is a visible reminder and a sensory reminder that your tax dollars are not going towards what they're supposed to be going towards. But they do damage to people's cars. They slow people down. All of these, and there are ways to fix them. And whenever I make the joke about potholes, people they cheer. Also, data centers are such a huge thing right now, and utility costs. Those are kind of the three big things I'm seeing. And then as far as positive things, people very much want us to keep township government. They don't want to see that go away. We have a couple of really strong townships up here in Fort Wayne. And so they don't want to see us lose those. So those are some things that I'm hearing.
I love it. What about you, Kirsten?
Yeah, I think I'm hearing pretty similar things. I don't know if it's like the way that I talk to people, but I'm hearing more about mental health care being a major barrier, especially in rural areas, because I have a lot of families that come to me and say yeah, my kid's suicidal and I'm on a wait list and I don't have any sort of access for them. Or they say I have substance use issues and I want to get sober, but I can't take time off work to go an hour and a half to get treatment. So that's one big thing. But then again, the data centers, it's always data centers and concerns about the environment, especially one thing that's been really surprising is meeting with farmers and people who I don't think typically would give me the time of day. They are giving me the time of day because they want somebody who's going to be pushing back against these data centers and taking away their farmland. So that and annexation are big conversations that I'm hearing right now.
And that's interesting because farmers were the major supporters of this Republican nonsense, and they have done nothing but screw them over, from helping them lose their customer base to, destroying the environment, destroying the water. There's nothing conservative about what they're doing to the environment. So I don't even know why they call themselves conservatives.
And I think that is shifting a little bit, because my family is, I'm the fourth generation of people who own a farm. None of us work on the farm. It's in Missouri. All of my mom's generation manages all of it. But I've seen some real change in my family even over the past year and a half to 2 years, because they're realizing all of the impacts that this could eventually have on what's essentially our family legacy.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy. And one thing I also notice about you two, you're incredibly feisty. I do love me some feisty candidates, because I know if you win, when you win, we'll claim it. When you win, you're going to go to the State House and you're not going to be pushed over. Like Andrea Huntley said it best yesterday. I'm telling you the interview, and I can't wait to produce it so you guys can watch it. She says that the State House is full of weak men. And I am excited about sending more feisty, strong women into our State House. You know, it is Women's History Month. Talk to me about what it means for you as candidates to be women candidates, as you think about, you know, winning and getting into the State House. What does it mean to you to represent your community and being feisty women?
It means everything to me. So in 2022, I, June 24th, 2022, I think was the date. It might have been June 21st. I really need to get that date down. But the day that we woke up and Roe versus Wade was overturned. Yeah. I was already unable to have children. But I have a blood disorder that made it very dangerous for me to even consider getting pregnant. And so I said to myself, I need to have a hysterectomy by the end of 2022 while it's still on the books that it's legal to do so. So I fought like heck. I had that done by the end of 2022. That's a whole fun story that we almost need a whole hour for. But I fought like heck to get that done. And I will fight just like that for every single woman who is having a healthcare issue in our state or is having a pay gap issue in our state. So that way we start to see more women doing all the things that we are so built to do.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. I think being a woman it's kind of a mixed thing for me. Since I've been in the field that I've been in, there's been a lot of checking my privilege and my biases, right? Because there is a lot of space being taken up by white women specifically, where they get to these fields of power and then they're not using it to fight for like Black women or Indigenous women or women of color. And it like backfires because it's like, okay, we supported, not we, I shouldn't say we, but they supported these women and then they get there and they don't do what they promised they would be doing. So I think for me, like it's very empowering to be a woman. I'm not afraid of any man. There is not a man in this world that scares me. I mean, women, I respect them. Men, you've got to fight for it a little bit more.
I love you for that.
Thank you. There's just this inherent distrust, which is, again, a bias that I'm working on. But I think for being a woman, like I've had an abortion. My mom grew up in a male dominated field. There is nothing to be afraid of at this point. And I think what we really need to recognize is exactly what you were saying earlier about they are some submissive men in the State House. One of my opponents was endorsed by Donald Trump. And I'm like, how embarrassing. You're saying you're going to go fight for people and you won't even fight for yourself. Like, how are we supposed to rely on you when you're just out here selling your soul to the devil? I've gotten 3 mailers from him this week, and I think he's rage baiting me. If that's the case, it's working. But I think being a woman, it just gives us a different take on everything. And it gives us a chance to really do better and be better and show that for the next generation of women and tell the boys that are being raised too, hey, look at what we're doing because you need to be doing it too.
I love it. And see, I'm glad you mentioned that because Liz Brown has been like out here all week talking about, I'm endorsed by the orange turd. I'm endorsed by the orange turd. Like, you are proud of the fact that you are being endorsed by someone who would have sexually assaulted you. Right. Like,
yeah,
it's insane.
So District 15 is up here in Allen County. Liz Brown's district's up here in Allen County. And she's got some formidable competition on the Democrat side. She does. And I cannot wait to see them go toe to toe.
Good. Guys, these candidates, I love these two ladies. They are feisty. They are ready to go. Thank you, Kirsten, for recognizing your bias and how you are continuing to work on it. Sharon, thank you for sharing some very, very intimate stories and allowing us to draw the line between whatever health issue may have had and how the abortion impacted you, even though you couldn't actually have children, but how that abortion decision could impact you if for some reason. These stories are impactful and amazing. Guys, support these candidates. Click the donate link. become a $10 a month recurring donor to these candidates. I am fired up for these ladies. I believe you guys will have success when you win. All right, Kirsten, tell the people where they can find you.
I'm everywhere. My website is rootforindiana.org. I got very lucky with my married name. Thank you, Eric, for that. And then I'm on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube now. So just search Kirsten Root and you will find me all over the place.
I love it. I love it. And do you have any volunteer opportunities coming up?
Oh, absolutely, I do. That is a great thing. We are posting our canvassing and phone banking opportunities coming up tonight, I think, actually. And then we're also having a protest sign party tomorrow night in Westfield, and I'll also be at the No Kings rallies speaking in Kokomo and Tipton tomorrow or Saturday.
Love it, love it. Sharon, tell the people where they can find you.
So electsharonwight.com, facebook.com/elect Sharon Wight, and we're working on getting other socials. I've been told to focus on the parts where I'm going to do really well. And so I've focused on those parts to start. I work with web developers. And so I've picked up a few things. So the website was kind of naturally my first place. I will also be at a No Kings rally up here in Fort Wayne on Saturday. I'll be spending my afternoon there. And please, there is a volunteer with us form on my website. I definitely need volunteers. I'm in a contested primary. And so and like I said, I need people to get out and vote. That's another thing that I need people to get out and do is get out and vote. Voting starts on April 6th. You can already request a mail-in ballot. Those are going out, I believe, across the state. They are at least going out in Allen County. And make a plan. And make plans A, B, and C. Plan A being, here's what I want to do first. Plan B, let election day be plan C, because that way that you've got other options ahead of time. Remember, the polls are open from 6 to 6. And another thing that I have on my website, Allen County did just go to voting centers. Mm-hmm. And so another thing I want to say to the people of Allen County, you can vote at any of those voting centers on election day. It does not matter if it is in your precinct. So don't let that be a reason why you don't vote this year. Let's get that primary percentage in Allen County up. I would be over the moon if it got up over 50%. I'm a realistic person. If we get it up over 30%, I'll be really excited.
Man, listen, you are forever in your teacher mode. I love it. Educate these people. Educate these people. This has
Can't turn it off.
Yes, this has been an absolute pleasure for me. Getting to know you guys. I know that I've met, but I ain't gonna lie. At 55, certain things stick. And, I remember faces. But this was a fun conversation because you two are incredibly feisty, and you walk in conviction, and I love that. And you guys remind me of me. Yes, I see myself in you. Maybe that has something to do with it. I don't know, but I tell you what, this was a fun conversation for me. Getting to know you two. Thank you so much for joining me.
Nice.
Hold on, don't hang up though. Don't hang up. Guys, listen. These candidates need our help. All right. I know that times are hard for a lot of us, and resources are not as plentiful. And we've talked about, the rising utility costs. We have talked about, healthcare costs. All of those things are happening to us. But if we want to reverse this trend, if we want to reverse this, we have to put people in office who are going to fight for us. And these two feisty ladies, woo! But here's the thing. Because of Citizens United, we can talk about and be in our feelings about, I'm running a grassroots campaign. Yeah, right. Run your grassroots campaign, but your grassroots campaign still needs some money. It needs money. If we want to be competitive at every level of our government against these Republicans, especially in Indiana, who we are, in many cases, up until this year, we hadn't even made them spend any money, right? So they're just sitting there. They've been raising, but we didn't make them spend it. I love that we have primary races. I love that we have candidates who are iron sharpens iron. But what I love more than anything is that all 25 Senate seats that are on the ballot have a Democrat running. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, 92 or 93 of the House seats will be contested by Democrats. But here's the deal. You got to help these candidates. And if you can't donate to these candidates, because, again, I understand, but $5 a month would be great if you could. If you can't, think about how to volunteer. We can all sit around and be keyboard warriors all we want. We can go on all the socials and talk about how mad we are, but that's not the work. The work is getting out and knocking doors. The work is making phone calls. The work is having those conversations with people in your community who typically wouldn't be engaged right now. They are engaged now more than ever. Don't diss them. Yeah, they made a mistake. They sure did. And a lot of them 3 different times voted for that orange clown. But they've been voting Republicans for the last 20 years. Last 20 years plus, they have been in charge of Indiana, and look at what's happening to us. So please find a way to help these candidates. Find a Democrat that speaks to your values. They will not be a perfect candidate. They will not check all of your boxes. But I bet they will check about 75 to 80% of them. So find people to support and help them. This is a citizen-led government. You have candidates that are out here running. So stop asking what the Democratic Party is doing. Look in the mirror and say, what am I doing to help these candidates get across the finish line? Because it takes all of us. All right. Indiana's own Dana Black, thank you so much for tuning in to Turn Left. I am excited. I will not be at any of the No Kings rallies here. I have work to do for Act Blue. But listen, go, support, rally. And then when you get done rallying, go knock some doors for these candidates. All right, I will holler at y'all next time. Peace. Turn Left is the property of Black Pearl IT Solutions, executive producer, Indiana's own Dana Black. Music by Dorian and 22 from Pixabay.